I am at Newark Airport Railroad Station. The station lies on the Northeast Corridor between Boston and Washington, D.C., one of the busiest rail lines in North America, and is served by NJ Transit and Amtrak trains. However, there is something odd about this station. It doesn't have access to its surrounding areas. If you want to leave the station, you either have to go back downstairs to take an NJ Transit or Amtrak train, or take the Airtrain to the terminals. This creates a big problem for some neighborhoods. One of them is the Dayton neighborhood, which lies right behind this glass. Here I am. I was literally standing there, on that pedestrian bridge. Right behind me is the Dayton neighborhood. But just like many residents living here, I had to make a huge detour with a mix of bus and trains to get here. The train and the airport is as close as it could be, but without an entrance and exit on this side of the tracks, residents here can't easily access them, blocking them from jobs and opportunities, leading to Dayton to be one of the poorest neighborhoods in Newark. But this is about to change with the Newark Airport Station Access Project. The Newark Airport Station Access Project will extend the pedestrian bridge over to this side and create a 16,350 square foot station facility off Verlinghausen Avenue. This project will be absolutely transformative for residents living west of the station, as they can now easily access transit and the airport. Their long 40-minute commutes to Newark Penn Station or Newark Liberty International Airport can be cut down to 10 minutes. The travel time to New York City and other parts of the region will also be much easier than before. However, something is missing from this project. In previous plans, the PATH train's Newark World Trade Center line will be extended from Newark Penn Station and terminate here, creating a new station complex on the west side of the Northeast Corridor tracks. But due to the lack of funding, this plan was scaled back to what we have today, with only the new station facility and no PATH extension. Don't get me wrong, this is still a beneficial project, but it is really disappointing to see that the PATH train extension is being cut and eventually excluded from this project. In today's video, we'll take a look at the history of a PATH train extension to Newark Airport, how it ended up being pushed back, and why and how it should be built today. The idea of bringing the PATH train to Newark Airport dates back to 1971, when Port Authority released a plan to extend the PATH line from Newark Penn Station to Plainfield, using the right-of-way of the Central New Jersey Main Line. This extension would include a station in North Elizabeth, where a people mover would take passengers to Newark Airport terminals, similar to how the Airtrain functions today. This project got approval in 1975, but was later pushed back by the Federal Urban Mass Transit Administration, who refused to fund 80% of the project's cost. The $322 million requested by the Port Authority administration later got on board, but faced legal challenges in 1977. The project was cancelled in 1978. As an alternative, bus service was improved. The CNJ mainline was eventually converted to a ComTrail line operated by Conrail and later NJ Transit. With no possibilities for an extension to Plainfield, the Port Authority proposed a scaled-back version of it, with an extension to Newark Airport, the rail link station on the Northeast Corridor to be precise. The actual extension that is built is shorter in length as PATH train tracks already go beyond Newark Penn Station to South Street, where there is a storage yard. In the mid-2000s, $31 million was secured for a feasibility study on the project. The project was given a $500 million price tag. By 2013, then New Jersey Governor Chris Christie was publicly supporting this project, and the cost at the time has doubled to $1 billion. In February 2014, the PATH train extension to Newark Airport was included in the Port Authority's 10-year capital plan. However, later that year, people called for the funding to go towards other priorities. In 2017, the extension was again included in its 10-year capital plan, with a $1.7 billion price tag. Later that year, the Port Authority held public meetings regarding this project. The project had an expected completion date of 2025. That obviously didn't happen. The project was still on the table by mid-2022, but in March 2023, the Port Authority announced that the project will be deferred to a future capital plan where funding is available. As an alternative, the EWR Station Access Project I mentioned at the start of this video was proposed. While the extension project was deferred, the intermediate stop on the extension at South Street was completely dropped from the plan at some point. The South Street station would have been located where the PATH train tracks end today. The station would serve the South Ironbound neighborhood nearby, one of the low-income neighborhoods in Newark. Just like the Dayton neighborhood mentioned earlier, South Ironbound sits right next to the Northeast Corridor and PATH train tracks, but does not benefit from them at all. Residents here have to take a bus to reach Newark Penn Station or other parts of the region. The lack of transit access has long disadvantaged this neighborhood. Back to the extension, the EWR Station Access Project was branded as a project that, quote, will deliver many of the community benefits of a PATH rail extension to the Airtrain Newark Rail Station faster and at a significantly reduced cost. My feelings are complicated about the EWR Station Access Project. On one hand, it is indeed beneficial and transformative for residents west of the track, as they have easier access to jobs and opportunities, and it is better than the status quo. On the other hand, I still believe the PATH train extension should be constructed now, instead of at a later date. Compared to NJ Transit and Amtrak service on the Northeast Corridor, PATH train service can be more affordable and more frequent. Additionally, PATH trains will give Newark Airport a direct link to cities in New Jersey, such as Jersey City, as well as Lower Manhattan. Additionally, the PATH train extension opens up revitalization and TOD opportunities in neighborhoods that have limited transit access despite being next to it. I am not just talking about the Dayton neighborhood that the EWR Station Access Project will serve, but also the South Ironbound neighborhood, which won't benefit from the current project. The Port Authority is deferring this project because of a funding shortfall, but I don't think this is a project that New Jersey can afford to build. It is more about the lack of political will to build this project. Just like I mentioned in my NJ Transit video, billions of dollars are given to roads and highway projects, and these projects are way more expensive than this one, while being less beneficial. Also, transit project costs in the US has been higher than it needs to be, so it is possible to pull this project off at a lower price if things are done correctly. How to lower the transit construction cost will be a topic for another video. But if the PATH train does get extended down to Newark Airport, what should it be like? Well, a few alternatives have been in my mind. The first one is what has been officially proposed, an extension next to the Northeast Corridor to the Newark Airport Rail Link Station. The only difference is that I would add South Street Station back onto the map to also help out the folks living in South Ironbound. An alternate route terminating at the rail link station is an extension directly to Newark Airport terminals. There are a few alignments to be considered. My preference is an extension to the Newark Airport terminals using parts of the Airtrain right-of-way with an intermediate stop at the rail link station. This will provide a one-seat ride to the terminals, so a transfer to the Airtrain is not needed. We may need to modify the right-of-way for PATH trains to use it. If it can't be used, it may need to be built under the terminals. In 2013, the cost for a direct extension to the terminals was estimated to be $3 billion. The cost may have raised by now, more than 10 years later. However, replacing the Airtrain will cost $3.5 billion in the first place. So why not use that money plus some additional investment to give Newark Airport passengers a one-seat ride from the terminals downtown Newark, Lower Manhattan, and places in between? The third alternative does not involve extending the path. Instead, it will revise the Newark Elizabeth Rail Link, an abandoned extension proposal of the Newark Light Rail. The extension will branch south from the Newark Light Rail onto Mulberry Street, where it will run down south, eventually terminating at the rail link station. This light rail will primarily serve the local neighborhoods, compared to the PATH train that will serve a broader region. This is a supplement to the PATH extension for me. I prefer running it down Broad Street instead of Mulberry. I also propose adding a few stations along the way to better serve the local communities. Broad Street is further away from the Northeast Corridor, which means it can serve more communities that are far from transit. Also, there are tons of parking along this corridor, which could be utilized for better use. Besides the alternatives mentioned above, urban planning students from Blaustein School at Rutgers University have proposed an interesting plan for Newark Airport, including a people mover loop line connecting the terminals, as well as the neighborhoods on the west side of the Northeast Corridor tracks, a cable car line, as well as a BRT corridor. The last alternative is sort of a no-build alternative. Instead of extending the PATH train, NJ Transit and Amtrak service at the rail link station will be improved, with the possibility NJT being integrated into a larger regional rail system. But the NJT commuter rail is aimed to serve a much broader region, so it may not have the capacity to provide frequent service at Newark Airport. So after reviewing these alternatives, you may ask, what is my choice? My number one preference is the PATH train extension directly to the terminals, with stops at South Street and the railing station, using parts of the Airtrain right away. As a supplement for more local service, the Newark Light Rail mentioned above could also be extended to the railing station via Broad Street, but that could be done later. The best airports in the world are all well served by public transit, so Newark Airport shouldn't be an exception. With billions of dollars for roads and highways, the PATH train extension to Newark Airport should be easy to afford and build. The extension will not just be a link to the airport, but also a link to the neighborhoods that have long been forgotten about and deserves better transit access. What do you think about the PATH train extension to Newark Airport? Share with me in the comments below. While New Jersey has refused to build the PATH extension, New York City has refused to build the Queens Link, aka reactivating the Rockaway Beach branch. You can learn about that project in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that video.